So what does it mean in Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth? One hint of this is from Exodus chapter 1, verse 7, of where it says, but the Israelites were fertile and prolific. They multiplied and increased very greatly, so the land was filled with them. Well, if the Bible says in Exodus chapter 1, verse 7, that Vatimale ha'aretz otam, that the land was filled with them, which is parallel to the language of the first chapter of Genesis, which says, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Well, what did ancient Egypt look like in the period of the new kingdom of Ramses II, when the Torah says that the Israelites filled the land? So I looked a little bit about this online, and according to one study on the issue, the population of ancient Egypt during the period of the new kingdom of Ramses II, when the Israelites were slaves, which is what this verse in the Bible is referring to, is that the population of Egypt at the time was 3 million people in total. So, by comparison, in our times, the population of one section of Cairo is 3 million people. The population of all of Cairo is 25 million people. The population of all of Egypt is 80 million people. The population of Nigeria is close to 200 million people. And the population of all Africa is 1.2 billion people. And the population of the world is 7.5 billion people. So if we just look at it from a simple reading here, that the land was filled with them, and the same verse says that the Israelites were fruitful and multiply and filled the land. So it doesn't seem to me like such a stretch to say that at 7.5 billion people, that humanity has filled the land. And especially based on the understanding of Nachmanides, the Ramban, on Genesis 1:28, who says that the idea is that they should disperse around the earth, which has happened. People are now on every continent except for Antarctica and on most islands that are habitable. Now, to strengthen that line of thinking, we're living in a time today when there's actually hundreds of millions of children who are breathing toxic air. And there are situations of megacities in the world, from Jakarta to Lagos to Cairo to Delhi to Mexico City, in which people are continue to be fruitful and multiply. In many cases, having 6 to 8 to 10 children per woman, and in many cases based on religious teachings that we need to continue to be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. But there are hundreds of millions of children that are then brought into situations of where they're living in toxic air, of where the air of their city is, according to international health standards or the World Health Organization, it's unlivable, and where these children are developing childhood asthma. In Africa, for example, respiratory infection and pneumonia kills 2 million children every year. And so I think that there's also room to say here that we need to temper, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth with an awareness of the quality of human life. That being pro-life is also about making sure that life that we bring into the world can be healthy and sustainable and thrive, and that we're not just fulfilling the simple meaning of be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth without thinking about the implications of doing so and the collective implication of 7.5 billion people and now moving to 10 billion people in the coming decades. So my hope and my blessing, my prayer is that we should be able to connect to the teachings of the Bible in a way that is logical and makes sense in the context of which it's spoken, and hopefully to be able to live sustainably in so doing.